Despite the fact that UFC 230 has been bitten by the injury bug more than once, we're still heading into this Saturday's event with a solid card on deck. The main event features a heavyweight title fight between Daniel Cormier and Derek Lewis. This is a very short notice fight for both men, which is quite rare. It's not often a fight gets booked and happens just 1 month later, but here we are. Lewis has gotten the nod and is stepping in for his crack at the title, just 1 month removed after being in an absolute war versus Alexander Volkov. And while it may not be what the promotion originally had in mind for their main event for the return to Madison Square Garden in New York City, I actually think it's a pretty cool headliner we have to look forward to this Saturday night. It's a complete bummer that Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier is off. The return of Nate Diaz is something that had all of us fans excited, and that was a fight that could have easily main evented this card. But it wasn't meant to be, at least not this time around, so that makes Chris Weidman versus Jacare Souza the co-main event, which I'm certainly not complaining about. That's a fight that's been a really long time coming. I actually think it should have happened by now, but nevertheless, it's finally going to go down, and that's all that matters. There are other notable fights on this card, and there's a lot to examine, but this week I'm choosing to focus on Israel Adesanya versus Derek Brunson. This fight jumps off the page to me because it'll mark the 4th fight under the UFC banner for Israel Adesanya. If you don't know who Adesanya is, you're about to find out. I love all aspects of MMA, but I consider myself a real nerd/fanboy when it comes to the striking aspect of the sport, and that's why I'm extremely hyped on seeing the Stylebender finally step back in there. It's not just his unbeaten MMA record of 14 wins and 0 losses that is so impressive. It's not even the fact that 12 of those 14 wins came by TKO/KO. It's that MMA record coupled with the fact that he has an amateur Muay Thai record of 32-0 and a 75-5-1 professional kickboxing record that really gets me excited and likely is a cause for concern for anybody who's planning on stepping in there and playing the striking game against him. At 6 feet 4 inches tall, the Stylebender is a lengthy middleweight. It's really satisfying to see somebody with that type of build to be able to use their range so well. It's often a criticism of a lot of fighters who have similar physical attributes, but it's certainly no issue for the Stylebender. He uses that length coupled with impeccable kickboxing technique, and it gives him a huge advantage over most everybody in the striking department. He's also extremely relaxed and calculated. His striking is very efficient. There is no wasted movement whatsoever. He likes to change stances, and he does a really good job at keeping his opponent guessing. He likes to set up the big knee with his punches and kicks, and he's just way too cerebral to headhunt. He does a really good job of landing his punches to the body, and he makes it look easy while he's at it. He was highly touted coming into the UFC. Many made the comparisons to Jon Jones, and I can definitely see that, but I would offer to you that his striking is similar to Jon Jones, except for Adesanya is more lethal. He probably has more stopping power than Jones, but it's his accuracy that usually leads to his opponent's undoing. I could spend this whole episode talking about the Stylebender, but a large part of what has me extra excited for this fight is the fact that he's fighting Derek Brunson. A man who has experience stepping in there against the very best strikers in the UFC. Not just the best strikers, but some of the best fighters in the division. Brunson has taken on Yoel Romero, Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida, Jacare Souza, and current middleweight champion Robert Whittaker. Adesanya hasn't fought anybody in the UFC with that type of history, but this is why I find this fight so damn interesting. Although Brunson has scored a KO/TKO victory over the likes of Lyoto Machida and Uriah Hall, his base is a wrestler. Brunson was a 3-time division All-American wrestler from the University of North Carolina and holds a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He's a wrestling/grappling-based guy about to take on one of the most dangerous strikers in the game. On paper, it would have one believe that Brunson is setting out to take the fight to the mat. But if history is any indication, we could very well see this one play out on the feet, and that's something to get excited about. I can see this one going many different ways. Stylistically, I think it has all the makings for being a potential fight of the night, but I suppose it could also be a lackluster affair depending on each competitor's game plan. But either way, Israel Adesanya versus Derek Brunson is a fight you ought to pay some attention to. UFC 230 goes down this Saturday, live from Madison Square Garden in New York City.